Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our program. Imam Ali al-Naqi, the 10th Imam, was the youngest of the infallibles to become an Imam, other than our 12th Imam, may Allah hasten his appearance. At the tender age of only 8, he became an Imam. The enemy of his time was Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, who was very mean to the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And he had put the Imam under house arrest so he could watch over him at all times, because he was afraid that, if the Imam got enough power, of course he would overthrow him. He was afraid that, the Imam was becoming too popular. One time a companion came to visit our 10th Imam, alayhi salam, also known as Imam al-Hadi. The Imam was facing the Qibla and reciting some supplications. And the man came inside the small room of the Imam, who was sitting with his back facing towards the door. And he started crying because he saw that there was a grave in front of the Imam. And what the man had thought was that the Imam's time had come, the time had come for Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam to die. And the man was crying. And the Imam called out to his friend by name and he said, "The thought that has come to your mind is not true. The time for my death has not yet come, so do not be upset." And the man was surprised by this. He wondered, then why is your grave there? And he wondered because, Imam alayhi salam hadn't even turned around his face to see who was at the door. He couldn't even see him. And he called him by his name. And, he knew exactly what he was thinking. And so he asked the Imam, he said, "Then why do you have a grave in front of you?" Of course, because, the Imam is in this room. And, it's a dark room. And, his back is facing the door. And this man walks in and he sees that the Imam is standing in front of a grave. And, without looking at him or anything, the Imam knows exactly who it is. He knows exactly what he's thinking. And that's what he tells him. So the man says, "Then why is there a grave in front of you?" And the Imam replied, "It is there so that before I perform any action, I look at the grave to see if this thing that I'm going to do will help me in the next world, or if it will be a means of punishment or harm for me in the grave and in the final abode." What can we learn from this? Well, we see in this story that the Imam is facing a grave, like we were talking about. And the Imam is saying that before every action that we do, we have to think before every single action. Whatever we do, every single thing, whether we think of it as a big thing or a little thing, every single thing we do is going to affect our grave. It's going to affect, where we are, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to judge us. So before every single thing that we do, that's the thought that should be in our mind. And we shouldn't fear death. We have to realize that death is like a bridge that everyone has to cross into, the other stage of our existence, into the next chapter of our lives. And it's a thing that every single person has to go through. The Imams went through it. The Prophets went through it. Every single person that you see, from, your family members to the guy next door to the guy at the grocery store who packed your bags, every single person is going to go through this. Every single person who was ever on the earth. So we have to realize that before we do anything, like I said, whether big or small, whatever we do, we have to first think that if this action is going to help us or if it's going to harm us in our grave and in the next life. And that's why it's very recommended to go to cemeteries, especially on, it's recommended, I believe, on Fridays. It's very recommended to go to cemeteries. Bibi Fatima, alayhi salam, used to take her children, Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to the cemetery every Friday so that they could, be in the cemetery, they could see the graves. And what does this do? This reminds us of death. This reminds us of where we're going. Now, I have a similar story. My grandfather passed away, I think it was about last year. 1 year anniversary is coming up. And because of this, you see one thing, that someone that you've known for so long, my entire life, all of a sudden, just like that, gone. Now, it's almost 1 year later. And that's the challenge of time, how fast things go. And now, of course, he's in his own different chapter. He's in his own level. I'm where I am right now. So we all have to realize that whatever we do, whatever action, whether it's something we consider big or small, everything has an effect. So whenever we do something, we have to think, is this going to help me or is this going to harm me? Is this something that Allah will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, or is this something that He won't like? So whether it's whatever we're doing, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us to decide between these two things. He will help us so that we have that aql, we have that intellect, so that we'll be able to realize and we'll be able to see the differences, and we'll be able to see what we're doing and the effect it has before it's too late. So that when death comes to us, we're ready. And even, because we don't know how we're going to die. We could die today, we could die tomorrow, we could die 1,000 years from now. We don't know. So we should always try to prepare. We should always try to remind ourselves of death, remind ourselves that we don't have tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't assured. The only thing that we have is today. We have this very moment right now. And whatever we're going to do with this time is going to decide our future, and it's going to decide our placement in the next journey of our life. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Khuda Hafiz.